it's cathartic in a way. You know, I think comedians, they're kind of like dialysis machines in a way for the culture. You know, all this stuff comes into them and they process it and they clean it up. It's going through their system and it comes out, the blood is clean, it's better, it's stronger and healthier, but it's theirs.
It's funny, you can really tell about what a society thinks about the race issue based on their census. So look this is the UK census. This is one of the first questions that keys in. How would you describe your national identity? English, Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish, British, other? Well, first of all, this is just different types of white people. Most of the planet is other. What are you saying, UK? This basically says, please be white. For the love of God and country, please be white. The Queen would prefer it.
People call me political. I certainly see agenda-based comedy, which I feel like is what I sort of really think of it as, like comedy that has an agenda and is trying to make a point and wants you to think differently once you leave the room.
You don't believe me? Look at the next question. Please be white. What is white, English, Welsh, Scottish, Northern Irish, British, Irish, Gypsy, or Irish traveler, any other white background? Please be white. You don't believe me? Here's the next question. Are you at least mixed with white? It would be the nice thing to do. Just be mixed with a little bit of white. Are you Asian? Are you black? This is my favorite. Are you other or Arab? Oh, come on, UK. As obsessed as you are with Arab people, you stick them in the other, under other category? That's fucking rude.
And I think America certainly has a proud tradition of that, going back to Mort Saul and Lenny Bruce and through George Carlin. So I think that there's a strong through line of that in American comedy.
Mort Saul was a standard bearer. He carried the political banner and it was fearless and would actually assail the president, which had a lot. Very nervy because I figured, well, the FBI will be camping on his door for the next 23 years, you know.
When he was elected, President Kennedy, he didn't promise us an easy road. And he said he's going to demand a lot of us. We didn't always know what he meant, you know, but he's usually ahead of us. For instance, he knew that it would take a week to go to the moon and come back with a 5-man crew. 4 men and a competitive woman. So
the audience back then didn't know what stand-up comedy was either, so they were really sort of letting the performers do whatever they did and not judging it by laughs per minute or by how many drinks were sold at the bar. Like they were just sort of like, they were sort of witnessing it. They weren't coming from the tradition of stand-up as it currently existed. Lenny Bruce was one of the ones who actually made that transition. He had been a jokey joke teller and was not getting any success or really having any fun doing that. And he stepped over into the Mort Saul tradition of like, I'm a person in the world who sees things, and it becomes a lot more personal because you're really talking about your specific perspective and your life.
Are there any niggers here tonight? What did he say? Are there any niggers here tonight? Jesus Christ, you had to get that low for laughs?
They told us what was heartbreaking and what was heartbreakingly funny out of life, you know? So that's a whole school of comedy, you know? The truth.
Oh, there's 2 niggers, customers, and, but between those 3 niggers sits 1 kike. Thank God for the kike. 2 kikes. That's 2 kikes and 3 niggers and 1 spick. 1 spick, 3 spicks. 1 mick, 1 spick, 1 hick, fick, funky, spunky boogie.
They set us free. They were like Elvis. They set you free. They do a thing that da-da-da-da-da. You go, oh. It was a religious experience that comedy had turned a corner that it would never come back on the straight road again.
It wasn't sadly like he was almost not a comedian, Lenny Bruce, wasn't he? You know,
I was kind of lecturer. I liked it when he said, the world's sick and I'm the doctor. And there was a lovely album sleeve of him having a picnic in a graveyard. And I always thought, God, I wish I was as brave as that. Just the photograph. Never mind, you hadn't heard a word of the album yet, but there he was in the graveyard with his sandwiches.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here is a very shocking comedian, the most shocking comedian of our time, a young man who is skyrocketing to fame, Lenny Bruce. Here he is.
Will Elizabeth Taylor become bar mitzvahed? No, I promise continuity. I'll behave myself.
He was brave. Just to tackle religion in those days, you know, in the late 40s or 50s, was very brave. And I was in San Francisco once and saw him, and he was wonderful. Said people, you know, they wear a cross around their neck. If it was a little later in society, instead of the Romans, and Christ was, he said, I wonder if Christ was electrocuted. So on all these pointy buildings, would there be an electric chair? Would people feel comfortable wearing a little electric chair around their neck? I mean, that's the kind of wonderful, delicious mind that Lenny Bruce had.
You ever hate people so much you wish you had herpes just to give it to them?
I adopted a 5-year-old Chinese girl. Yeah, I needed help with my iPhone.
Who invited all these bad bitches to this wedding? Huh? Oh, I do.
In the 70s in LA, there was a comedy explosion. The Comedy Store was the place to be. People like Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, and then Richard Pryor hit the scene. They were explosive individuals who had no place to go with their bodies and their minds. That was it.
Please welcome Mr. Jim Carrey.
I'm really thrilled to be here because the Comedy Store is very special to me. You know, when I was a teenager, I used to watch people like Richard Pryor and Robin Williams on television and think, I can do that. But to actually come here and meet these people is amazing, you know?
I got a lawyer. First week, the motherfucker bought me a bill for $40,000. I said, motherfucker, I just met you. And lawyers, they don't get upset, right? God damn it, wait a minute. Don't worry. Everything will be all right. No, but I want to know why you got to... Take it easy. And you leave there feeling like an asshole, right? You've been going, what the fuck am I yelling about? They calm. I'm just facing 47 years.
I think the big lesson of Richard Pryor that he really taught us was how to be vulnerable on stage. And I don't think many comics have picked that up because I think that's really scary. One, also, 99.9% of people don't have any kind of biography that Richard Pryor has. Nothing close to, you know. So, I mean, not that he was lucky to be raised in a whorehouse. I'm not saying that, but certainly that created a lot of material for him to bounce off of from stand-up comedy, you know.
It's nice to have pride about your shit. I went home to the motherland, and everybody should go home to Africa. Everybody, especially black people. Really, man, there is so much to see there for the eye and the heart of the black people. Because white people, you'll go there and you get ideas, well, that's the way the black people in America should be, walking around with sticks.
He is able to speak the truth on stage in a way that I haven't ever seen anyone else do. Real innermost thought stuff and such utter compassion.
One thing I got out of it was magic I'd like to share with you. You know, it's like I was leaving and I was sitting in the hotel and a voice said to me, he said, look around, what do you see? And I said, I see all colors of people doing everything, you know? And the voice said, do you see any niggas? And I said, no. And I said, you know why? Because there aren't any. And it hit me like a shot, man. I started crying and shit. I was sitting there, I said, yeah, I've been here 3 weeks. I haven't even said it. I haven't even thought it. And it made me say, oh my God, I've been wrong. I've been wrong. I got to regroup my shit. I mean, I said, I ain't gonna never call another black man a nigga.
The fact that he had the self-awareness and the thought to experience that and then want to share that experience That to me makes such a valuable comic. Someone who's curious about bettering themselves and learning something about themselves and is able to impart that knowledge to other people. It's really quite an art form.
Does it have to get a laugh?
If you're Richard Pryor, not necessarily.
Next guest is a young comedian who's making his very first appearance on The Tonight Show. He's worked a lot of small clubs, both in New York and Los Angeles. Would you welcome him, please? Jerry Seinfeld.
In the 70s, the early 80s, Johnny Carson was the place to be. If you weren't on the show, you couldn't get any exposure. On the other hand, if you were, you could break any act and it would be the most amazing experience for your career.
Any drugs? Bingo, you got me.
If Carson liked you, you could tell. And a camera would cut to him.
Jerry Seinfeld. Thank you, Jerry. Take a bow.
If Johnny endorsed you, that meant that the agenting community and the producing community knew. We watched the show. We were there, and we noticed, and there'd be a bit of a hustle around those people.
Would you welcome, please, Louis Anderson, Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen, Harry is from Tucson, Arizona. Would you welcome Rich Hall?
If they were smart, they had a manager at that time. But some of them didn't. They were just raw.
She's a housewife from Denver, Colorado, who started appearing at a local nightclub called the Comedy Works in Denver about 3 or 4 years ago. And she moved out here to Hollywood, where she's been working at the Comedy Store. And this is her very first appearance on national television. Would you welcome Roseanne Barr?
So I'm fat. I thought I'd point that out.
Roseanne was a stand-up, not terribly successful at that point, about to break. This is where you want him. It's like the wave.
You know, 'cause women, we lie to men all the time, you know. It's not that we mean to or anything. It's just that it takes too long to explain the truth.
And she was funny. She was like a domestic goddess. That was her character.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, you're the best lover I ever had. It's never been like this. Stop, stop, you're killing me.
There were two things missing in American television. There hadn't been a female lead since Mary Tyler Moore in the 70s, not one. So 10 years go by and there's not a female lead for 10 years. And then there were also no working class people. She came along just at the right time. She wasn't an actress, but she did have something to say. You know, I work every single goddamn day. I work, you know, you can hear that as a sort of a monologue in everybody's head. So the laughter of recognizability was ours for the taking.
What's the point here, Roseanne?
There is no point, okay? No point. The point is, you think this is a magic kingdom where you just sit up here on your throne.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And you think everything gets done by some wonderful wizard. Oh, poof, the laundry's folded. Poof, dinner's on the table.
You want me to fix dinner? I'll fix dinner. I'm fixing dinner.
Oh, but honey, you just fixed dinner 3 years ago.